How's it, everyone? We've got a super awesome lecture planned for you today. So we're basically going to be working with Photoshop filter tools and layer blend styles, and we're going to be building out a really cool space nebulon scene. And if you feel like we're going too fast, feel free to pause the video at any time. But yeah, let's get right into it.
How's it going, everyone? So today we're going to be recreating the space nebulon scene. So let's go to File, New. Let's set the document width to be 1920 pixels and the height to be 1080 pixels. Let's set the resolution to be 150 pixels. Make sure RGB color mode is selected, and let's set the background color, the document, to be black, and hit create. So first thing we want to do is duplicate the background layer by hitting Ctrl J. Let's move to Filter, Noise, Add Noise. Make sure the mount is set to 400, Gaussian blur selected, and monochromatic is selected, and hit OK. Next, head back to Filter, Blur, Gaussian blur. Let's set the amount to be 1,5 pixels, and hit OK. Next, let's move into Image, Adjustments. Let's head into Curves. Drag the pointer on the left to the right until you start seeing your stars forming. And to brighten up the stars, drag the pointer on the right to the left until you're happy with your compilation. So the next step is to create the planet. So what I did was I searched for rock texture in Google Images, and you can use any random rock texture you find. So let's save out this texture. And then we're going to open up the location where it was saved in. And then let's right click and say open with Photoshop. So what we want to do is make sure that the circular marquee tool is selected, and then we're going to hold down shift, then we're going to click and drag to create a perfect circle on the rock texture. So next we're going to head over to Filter, go to Distort, Spherize, and make sure that the amount is set to 100, and hit OK. Then we're going to hold down Ctrl C to copy the planet, and then we're going to hit Ctrl V to paste it into the document. Then we're going to hit Ctrl T to resize it, and holding Shift while we resize the planet until we're happy with the size. Once we're happy, hit Enter, and then we've got our planet. So the next step is to create a shadow on the planet. Start by creating a new layer and setting its layer blend mode to overlay. Then select the layer and say create clipping mask. Then we're going to head over and select the gradient tool. If it's not visible, click on the paint bucket tool and hold the mouse cursor until gradient tool becomes available. Then make sure that black and white are the colors selected within the gradient tool. Then we're going to click and drag on the planet to create the shadow. So let's set the shadow to be at the bottom half of the planet. Select the clipping mask layer, and let's select the move tool and move the shadow up a little bit. Okay, that seems good. So the planet seems a bit dark, so we'll add a highlight to it a little bit later. So next, let's create the nebulon clouds. Click on Create New Layer, and let's head over and set the foreground color to, let's make it a dark blue. Okay, that seems good. Hit OK. Then head over to Filter, Render, and select Clouds. Next, we're going to set the blend mode for that layer, and let's make it multiply. So as you can see, that layer is on top of the planet. So let's click and drag the layer so that it's sitting below the planet layer. And we've got quite a few layers at the moment, so it's a good idea to start organizing them. Let's double click on the name, and let's name this layer cloud. Let's click on layer 2, and let's name this planet. And then let's double click on layer 1, and let's rename it to stars. So let's create a new layer on top of the cloud layer, and let's rename this layer, let's call it colors, because this is going to be the colors of the nebulon clouds. So let's select that layer, and let's set the foreground color. Let's make it a dark purple. Yeah, that seems good. Hit OK. Then head over to your paintbrush tool and select it. I'm going to head over to the brush settings. Make sure that the hardness is set to 0. And then you can make the size something like 340 pixels. So we're going to start from the left. Let's click and drag to brush in the color. And then we're going to do the left hand side, we're going to do dark pink. So let's select a dark purple. And then let's brush that into the right hand side. Alright, that seems good. So next we're going to set the blend mode for the colors layer. And let's set it to color. So as you can see, the colors are coming through, but not in the density that will create clouds. So let's select the star layer, create a new layer on top of that one. And then let's head over and set the foreground color to white. Let's select your paintbrush tool again. And then set the opacity of the paintbrush to around about 30%. And then we're just basically going to slowly paint in where we actually want the clouds. Okay, that seems good. So let's set the opacity a little bit lower so that the stars shine through the clouds as well. 58, around about 60% seems good. And then let's just brush in some extra highlights. So I'm not 100% happy with how the two clouds are split down the middle there. So let's blend them a little bit. So hit I, and then click on the color. And then just brush in that color over the dark pink. Okay, now it seems to be blending a lot better. So next what we want to do is we want to hit Control A to select the entire composition. Then we're going to head over to Edit, Copy Merged, and then we're going to hit Control V to paste the entire copied scene on top of the layers. So next what we want to do is we want to drag it to the top, and we want to reduce its opacity to around about 60%. Then we're going to right click on the layer, and we're going to say Release Clipping Mask. So then next what we want to do is we want to head over to Filter, Render, and head down to Lens Flare. And then we're going to select the lens flare and move it to the top of the planet where most of the highlights are. And hit OK. So now we've got a basic light source on top of the planet. But the planet isn't blending in too well with the rest of the composition. So let's head over to the planet layer. Let's double click on it. And then let's select outer glow. And then let's set the spread to be around about 18. And the blend mode, let's set the blend mode to be, set it to luminosity. And then let's set the noise to about 91%. I'm going to set the opacity down to about 9% again and hit OK. So let's double click on the layer again to bring up the layer style options. And then next let's select inner glow. And then let's set the opacity of inner glow to be around about 63%. And we're going to set the blend mode to luminosity as well. So then we take the opacity up to around about 82%. Okay, that seems good. And hit OK. And there you have it. We have a Nebulon planet compilation.